Good afternoon everybody and welcome to this week's webinar. I'm Ollie and today we're going to be running through the new edition of supplier rebates in Prima. If you've got any questions during or after the session, Molly will be on the live chat today, so feel free to ask away on the live chat. Okay, so straight into it then. So the key talking points for today's session. So you can set a default rebate at supplier level. So we'll be running through these in live examples as well on screen. The option to update rebates per line and also in bulk via the grid manager. So you can actually say, right, these items, they're 2% rebate, whereas the furniture, they might be 5%, and you can do it by category or by product as well. View rebated cost prices, where you can see them, so in the sales order screen, in the requirements, and from a requirements perspective, you've got more of an educated view when you're purchasing as well, so you can actually see what the cost price is in the system and what the rebated cost price is as well. And also going through restrictions of user views as well. So if you've got like a sales user as an example, you can only look at their sales orders and you're wanting to hide the rebated cost, and that's something you can do at the moment as well. There's a few more improvements that will be made to that in phase 2 and 3 of the development scale of this as well. Okay then, so the first one then, so how you can set it against a supplier. So if I just switch on to the live screen, okay, if I just go into company, and companies, okay, and I've preset this already, so I've searched for VAL just as an example, and then into that company record, and then in the supplier tab of that company record you can actually define what the default is. So against your VAL products in the system, if I go into the supplier tab, there's this new option here for default rebate. So I've set it 2%, so all my VAL products now, when I go into punch pockets or paper, whatever it may be, the default rebate on those products are 2%. So you can set a default by supplier across the board as well. So if you've got different rebates with different suppliers, you can set a default in the company record, and that then filters through to your products in the system as well. What you can do, so if there is a default rebate, and as I mentioned before, if you've got products that are set to a 5% or a 1% or a 3%, different options basically, what you can do is within the product itself, so stock and products, and again I've searched for this one already, so the punch pockets as an example. So within here, and within your supplier section, and then within here what you've got is there's the VAL supplier, there's the punch pockets, and you can see within here the rebate, which is pulled through at default, so you can see that's greyed out at the moment, and then the rebated cost versus the actual cost. So if this item was different to the 2% kind of default that was set across the board, I can then override default rebate and then type in whatever I want it to be, so 3% or 4%. So if I typed in there 3, then that would then change on the system. Otherwise, if I don't want to change that, I can untick that and that'll then pull through the default from here as well. So that's per product. So you can drill down into the suppliers, into the products, and actually change kind of line by line if you wanted to those products. Okay. So if you are wanting to do that in bulk, so rather than having to set a default and being able to manipulate by classification or by code, what you can do is within the stock area still, you've got the supplier's grid manager. So within here you can actually say, right, find me the full VAL catalogue where it's cleaning, and then apply a rebate of 2%, 3%, 4%, whatever it may be. So what you would do in that instance is you would search for your supplier. So there's different options you can search on within here as well. So if you're using the kind of the lettering that the suppliers give you, so VAL and letter A would be your top 100 QConnect lines. So if you've got your kind of matrix information, you can do it by that. Or if you wanted to do it by, say, classification, so they said to you, right, on all the clothing or all the cleaning, whatever it may be within here, that's how you define your rebates. It just depends on your agreement with your supplier basically. So if I said, right, find me janitorial, ran a search, I can then update the rebates on those items to a set rebate. If I just do a random example again, so if I just do KF24001 and run a search, that's then finding me 3 records for that. With it being a test database, it'll pull through just some testing that we've done. So in theory it'd be 1 on your database, and then you go into your change tab, update your rebate, so you can either use the supplier default if you wanted to reset them, or you can say set to this amount, type in your quantity, your value, sorry, on the right hand side here to 5%, and that then would update whatever's in that result tab. So that was just using one product just as a quick way to get the data to show, but otherwise you would do something like a envelopes, run a search for 1,000 envelopes in the grid, into your change, and then update it that way. Okay. There are other options as well for the rebates within here. As you can see, this new rebate column, and from here what you can do is actually search on what rebates are already set. So if you're wanting to look at items with the supplier's default already, you could have a look at that. So if I search for that remove the product there and searched, it would then at the moment pull through every single product for Val, because that's what it's using the defaults. There's no kind of set other lines. You can either have a look at ones that are overriding the supplier default. So if you've gone into that product, ticked override and change it to 5%, those products would then show. And there's other options within here as well. So use a supplier default and is equal to, so you can kind of find less than or more than 4% or 2%, whatever it may be. And again, finding where it overrides a supplier default and is equal to, so if you wanted to find all the ones that you've actually set to 5%, you could find them. So if I've just changed the janitorial range to 5%, and then I ran this search and said, right, find me everything that's equal to 5%, you could find those this way. So it's just a different way of finding it. And again, rebate is equal to supplier default or override, type in your value, and then that then would pull through those products. So just quick ways of actually grouping products together rather than having to individually go through and update your products as well. Okay, so that's actually setting it against the products then. So once that's all set up and ready to go, when you put your sales order on, and at this moment in time in this system it's just for Val, against your actual items you can then see, depending on your permissions, the rebated cost and the cost price. So if I just go into this one here, okay, so on this screen here you can see the normal cost prices, normal sell price, and the rest of it. So if you're a sales user that can't change the sales cost, which is a setting in the admin, then what you would then see is just this cost. You won't be able to see the rebated cost. My user at the moment in this database, I can see that. So when I go into supplier cost prices, you'll then see a new column for rebated cost. So from here now I've got an educated view of, right, okay, it's £6.35 with the rebate versus the £6.48. So if the user was set to change sales cost, no, they can't actually see this rebated cost column here. So it would be in effect blank. So from there then you can see all the information on this screen. Once you've authorised your order, so into your requirement screen to do your purchasing, you can then see, if I just highlight the VAL items on that test order, you can then see purchase cost with rebate and the purchase cost in the system, and then you can see again a more educated view before you do your purchasing of actually it's going to be cheaper to do it this way, and you can kind of tally up that way and view the cost prices. So as I mentioned there, in terms of permissions against the users, at the moment for sales users, if you restricted them just to their accounts, just their sales orders, and they can't change the sales cost, then on that view then that user wouldn't be able to see the rebated pricing. If they are set to change sales cost, yes, then they can see the rebated cost, I guess, throughout the system as well. Okay. So any questions you've got or any feedback, we're live today, so Molly's on the live chat. If you're watching this back, if you want to email training@primasoftware.co.uk. But that is, I guess, everything for today. So yeah, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.